Sometimes the fate of an entire nation doesn't come down to massive armies clashing or years of political maneuvering. Sometimes it all hinges on a single extraordinary moment between just two people. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible examples of that in all of history.
So, let's meet our champions. In one corner, we have King Narasian of Siam, a leader fighting for the very survival of his kingdom. And in the other, Crown Prince Minji Swa of Burma, heir to a sprawling, powerful empire. But these weren't just two individuals. They were literally the embodiment of their nations, each carrying the hopes, fears, and honor of their people on their shoulders.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? How on earth could a one-on-one fight possibly settle a war and win a country's independence? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a myth, but this really happened. So, let's get into it.
All right, first things first, we've got to set the stage. Because to really understand the duel, you have to understand the world these two men were living in. It was a world of constant conflict, deep-seated honor, and just unbelievably high stakes.
So why did this duel even need to happen? Well, it's because the Kingdom of Siam was in a truly desperate spot. Its capital had fallen years earlier, and now this new, massive Burmese invasion was poised to just crush the Siamese resistance for good. This wasn't a fight for a bit of territory. It was a battle for their very existence.
15 years. Just let that number sink in. For 15 long years, Siam had been living under Burmese domination. That's a whole generation growing up under the shadow of a foreign power. The hunger for freedom was at an absolute breaking point.
And look, this duel didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the boiling point of the long-running Siamese-Burmese wars. A huge Burmese army was pushing deep into Siam, and King Narasoan's forces were completely outnumbered. He was backed into a corner, fighting a desperate battle just to keep his nation on the map.
And this is where King Narasoan does something absolutely astounding. Faced with these impossible odds, he throws the conventional rulebook out the window. Instead, he proposes a crazy, high-risk, high-reward gamble that could either save his kingdom in a flash or doom it completely.
I mean, even the historical sources described this move as not just bold, but almost reckless. Think about that. His decision was so audacious, so far outside the normal strategies of war, that it was seen as bordering on madness. It was a true all-or-nothing moment. So what was this insane challenge? It was a call for Youth Ta Hacha. Now, this wasn't just some brawl. It was a formal, ancient, and deeply respected ritual of single combat. The idea was that two commanders, representing their entire armies, would fight it out on top of war elephants. It was a sacred contest of skill and courage, and the outcome was seen as a kind of divine judgment on who was right.
So King Narasoan rides out and challenges the Crown Prince, man to man. Can you just imagine that scene? Two massive armies. We're talking thousands of soldiers, all just standing down, told to watch as their leaders decide the fate of the entire war in personal combat. Absolutely everything was on the line. And that brings us to the climax of our story, the duel itself. In the year 1593, this is the moment where history itself seems to just hold its breath. Two absolute behemoths, these war elephants, each carrying a royal warrior, just thundering towards each other. You can almost feel the ground shaking. The tension must have been unbearable. It all comes down to this one violent collision. In the middle of all that chaos, the crashing beasts, the clashing weapons, it happens. A single decisive motion, one clean strike with a ceremonial sword, a weapon of honor, finds its mark. And just like that, it's over. Crown Prince Mingi Swa is struck down. The champion of the invading empire is defeated. A hush falls over the battlefield, and then absolute shock.
Okay, so here's the crucial part. It's not just that Narasoan won the duel. The really mind-blowing thing is what happened next. The consequences of that one single blow were immediate. They were immense, and they rippled out from that battlefield to literally change the course of history.
The impact was instantaneous. The entire Burmese army just watched their leader, their future king, fall right in front of them. The psychological blow was catastrophic. They were leaderless, they were demoralized, they were in total shock. Their will to fight just evaporated. They had no choice but to retreat. You can see the chain reaction here, right? It's incredible. One man wins a duel, that leads to an entire army retreating, and that retreat leads directly to the liberation of a nation. It's a straight line from one act of personal courage to national freedom.
Let's just pause on that for a second. In one extraordinary moment, the weight of those 15 years we talked about was just lifted. An entire generation of subjugation was ended, not by a long, bloody, drawn-out war, but by one single act of supreme bravery and skill.
And this is how legends are born. King Naressian was already a king, obviously. But this act, this one moment, transformed him into Naressian the Great. He became more than just a figure in a history book. He became a permanent national symbol of defiance, of courage, and of freedom.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. What's the most powerful part of a legend like this one? Is it the incredible, almost cinematic moment of the duel itself? Or is it the lasting legacy of freedom that act made possible for all the generations that followed? It's a great question to think about.